and we are officially done restoring the engine compartment. All the zinc plating is back in place. Refinished the air filter housing. Did the Cosmoline spray. Got our new hold down brackets back there. We already have the new hood pad, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Guys, all the cars that you see in these videos are for sale on my website, www.woodsandbarclay.com. Enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the series on the 1985 Cabernet Wagon. And today is one of my favorite parts to do on these cars. I'm going to redo the zinc plating in the engine compartment. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we have a lot to do here. It's going to probably span over a couple of days. I'll try to keep the video around an hour, but we not only want to take all this off, we also want to do a valve adjustment before we put it all back together. First thing we want to do is start with all the clips and retainers around the throttle linkage. We're going to start popping all these off because everything gets sent out to be plated. Now all your linkages up here, you can use a flat blade screwdriver to pop them off. And if they've been lubricated over the years, it's pretty easy to pop them off. I can tell this one has. And of course the one from our cruise control bracket over here. Go ahead and slide this guy off. And we got to go through and pop all of these linkages off back here. Let's get this one. There we go. Now, we also want to get our Bowden cable out of here. This is the transmission shift cable. It chooses, it makes your shift points on the transmission, you know, like 4,000 RPM, 4,500 RPM, 3,500 RPM. It changes that shift point. And that's just a little clip that pulls out back here. All right, put that over there. Now, let's see, we got these linkages right here. There we go. All right, and all of this can start to lift off of here. We'll take our Bowden cable lever off there. Now underneath your throttle linkage here, you need to pull this little clip off here. This is for the spring, the return spring. There we go. And then this can just slide right up. There's another E-clip underneath it here. Let's get this guy off. There we go. And then this can slide right off of here. There we go. And this one's going to come off with it. All right, there we go. Okay, now what we want to do here, this is your AC shutoff switch. When you engage your throttle, it presses this little lever, and at full throttle, it will actually disengage the AC compressor. And that is just to get you, you know, that little extra boost of horsepower. And so we'll unplug that, move this guy over here. And now these, we can take off this upper base plate and cruise control base plate with a 13 millimeter. There we go. Next, we may need to move down here to this main throttle linkage. There's a another E-clip right here. Let's see if we can get that out. And if they go flying across the room, guys, you can buy more of these. There we go. Got that one. And we need to pop off the linkage that goes down to our injection pump. These are all coming off really easy because all these were lubricated well. Now up here at the firewall, this throttle linkage goes into the firewall. We have a pin right back here. I'm going to pull that out. That's a cotter pin. There you go. And let's see, we should be able to get this linkage out of here now. Let's see. Slide that forward, then slide that back. We can lift that out as an entire unit. Next thing we're going to do, get a 17mm wrench and start undoing the main injector lines. And just got to get it around there. There we go. Just get them cracked loose. There we go. Now for getting the lines done down here at the bottom of the injection pump, or at the on top of the injection pump where the lines connect, you want to use a right angle crow's foot. And it's 17mm or 11/16. And you can just get down here around them. There we go. We can crack those loose. There we go. There you go. See how I got the crow's foot around all those fittings? And I'm just cracking them loose. And it gets kind of tight in there, so you can use a line wrench crow foot. See how it's a little skinnier, a little smaller? That is even better for getting down in here. It gives you some more room to work. There we go. All right, now those are all loose, and we can lift our injectors off of here. Get the little, there we go, injector lines, I'm sorry. There we go. All right, next thing we want to do is get the cruise control actuator off of here, and that's a 10mm. Because that was originally zinc plated. All right, get all the screws out of here. Right. Now I need to undo the wire, the electrical wire that keeps that cruise control, that routes to the cruise control, and that's done with some zip ties over here and on the inner wheel well. All right, I moved my fender protector out of the way, but here's where your cruise control connects into the main wiring harness, and there's a zip tie right down there, and there's one right here. I got to remove those, then I can pull this wire out of here. Now these are reusable zip ties, so, and I have more of them on the shelf, but we're going to try to preserve them and reuse them. Now it's actually, before we get that off, it's actually going to be easier to go ahead and remove the power steering lines, because we're replating these also, and then I can get access to that zip tie after. So let's go ahead and get these lines out. Now, before I undo those, we want to first evacuate the power steering fluid, otherwise we'll make a big mess when we're taking all that apart. So, and we're also going to remove the filter down in here as part of this process. There's a replaceable filter, and I can see that fluid, that is not very old, so it was being serviced. But let's go ahead, get that out of here, and suck all that fluid out. All right, I have my fluid extractor here. We'll go ahead and suck all that out of here. And then this comes off with a 10mm to remove the retainer that holds your filter in there. Got a 10mm nut, this plastic retainer, and that spring. And now once that's out, you can get access to your filter. All right, here's the top half. This is an old filter. Oh, there's the bottom. There's the actual filter. And here's the bottom base plate. There we go. We'll put a nice new Hengst filter in here. There you go. That's who makes these Hengst E26H. I really like these guys. And we'll go ahead and do this while we're at it. There you go. See our nice new filter. You can just grab that guy and stick it back down in here. All right, now we can take those lines off and we won't spill fluid everywhere. This one is a 19mm, and guys, I like to use a line wrench. You get maximum grip that way you don't mess anything up. we go. All right, got that top one loose. We got to get this one off of here. Now the other one is a 17 millimeter. It's a little trickier to get access to. Let's move that over here. Kind of got to come from the side down here. There we go. All right. Now that we got both those lines out, we can move back to getting this zip tie off for the cruise control. And those lines are actually going to come all the way out of the car. There we go. Now we can access that zip tie. And like I said, these are reusable. So we can just peel it back here. And there we go. So keep in mind the routing for your cruise control. Comes out of the cruise control module around between the water pump and your vacuum supply line right here. And then it zip ties to that line. And then it shoots down and comes back up the fender well. Because we want to reroute it the same way. The routing's important where you're running all this stuff, guys, or you'll wear holes and stuff if you route it in the wrong area. For example, the routing of these power steering lines. You notice the, let's see, the low pressure line, or the port right here, it routes over our AC manifold and under our vacuum supply line. The high pressure routes over the vacuum supply line. And it's very important you route them like that, or they'll rub against things and you'll rub holes in your power steering lines. Now there's one more zip tie down here, guys. It's going to be too hard for you guys to see. But it holds a bunch of wires, a bunch of electrical lines to the inner fender. We got to get that guy off of here. There you go, right there. You see that zip tie? Let's see if I can get the light on it. There you go. There's one end of it right here, and the other end of it is right there. And you see all those electrical lines, there you go, right there, run through it. And that zip tie is actually attached to your inner fender. So you got to undo that. And then you can then get this line out of here and we can pull this guy out. Okay, it goes under. Oh no, I forgot about a third one. Mercedes doesn't mess around with their wire routing. There you go. There's that third zip tie right there. There you go. And I got to get that one undone and then we can get this line out of here. I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. Down there. And it routes underneath the AC manifold. Got to squeeze it past there. There we go. Then underneath our power steering line. Okay. There we go. And then under our main vacuum supply. And there we go. We got it off here. Okay, next we have our base plate where our cruise control mounting bracket attaches to. And that's two 13 millimeters. Okay, now on the back of this base plate is a small plastic clip that is used to secure your diesel return hose that goes back to your filter from the first injector. And you just have to pinch the back of that clip and push it through. And it's okay if yours is missing, guys. That's gone on a lot of cars. You can just stick a zip tie through there to hold it. Anyway, we got our base plate off of here. Okay, next thing we want to do is go back to our power steering lines. And I got to get down there with 2 wrenches and disconnect them. You guys won't be able to see that, but I'll do that and then pull these guys out of here. And I think one of them is a 22 millimeter. That is the low pressure. Got it. And then the other one is a 17 millimeter. That's your high pressure. There we go. All right, screw that one out of here. And you'll make a mess. You're going to get some fluid that drips on everything, but won't hurt anything, guys. All right, there we go. There's our high pressure line. Okay, next thing we want to move to is our vacuum supply line that runs right across here and goes down to our vacuum pump. And first we want to disconnect it here. I think it's a 17 and a 19 millimeter. I mean, you can see some of the zinc plating is still on there, but it's mostly gone. All right, let's undo this. There we go. And this is just going to unscrew from there. And then we have our, here we go. We have an Allen bolt there that holds it in place. First, I'm going to go down here all the way, follow this line down, and it attaches to our vacuum pump. And guys, this is very tricky to get off of here on the wagons. So I'm just going to work with this for a minute. We'll see what progress we can make. All right, guys, using a crow's foot, I have the hard line going to our vacuum pump. I have that loosened. Let's get this back out of here. All right, now I'm going to take off this Allen bolt and we can pull that hard line out of there. I think it's a number 6 Allen right here. There we go. All right, mission accomplished. There we go. All right, got our hard line out of there. All right, guys, we have all the bits removed that we want to send off for zinc plating. And if we come back over here, there's just a couple of more right over here. Right here we have our brackets that hold in the radiator. Let's see here. There we go. Just kind of pull these off of here by putting a screwdriver through on both sides. There we go. There we go. And just pull up on it. See if we can get this thing out of here. Come on. There we go. And we have a little one right here that holds the fan shroud on. And then, of course, same ones over here on this side. Okay, there we go. That's what those look like. You can see they're zinc plated from the factory. Kind of almost worn off on this one. And the last piece we have here is this bracket that holds the radiator. It mounts the oil cooler to the radiator. And that's just a 10 millimeter. There we go. And that slides out, and this just lifts up right here. We're going to send that out to be plated too. All right, that's it. That's all the stuff that I want to remove from the engine. Let's go look at it. Okay, here we go. We have the mounting bracket for all the throttle linkage, the 4 bolts. We want to save this. That's our switch that cuts on and off the AC compressor. That's our lever for the cruise control. And also over here, we want to save this spring. That's our throttle return spring. We'll pull that off our linkage here. That's our throttle linkage. There's the Bowden cable lever. There's more throttle linkage, cruise control arm. This goes to the firewall and connects to our throttle linkage. We'll save some clips on here. Here's our injector, hard lines. There is our vacuum line, vacuum hard line, our cruise control base plate. Now also, I want to take this cap off the cruise control, and you can see it's mounted to a zinc plated bracket. We also want to take that bracket off the cruise control. And then we have here's our low pressure line, and we have our hose fitting here and our clamp, our hose clamp on both sides. Now the other line, the main line, that's a crimped fitting. That's the high pressure line. And there's our oil cooler bracket, fan shroud, and radiator brackets. And there we go. All that is going to be sent off to zinc plating, and I'll be back in a minute and you will see the finished product. All right, guys, I got the zinc plated shipment back. I think I got everything out of the box. There's a few things added after the last video. And if there's anything missing, I'll go back through the box. I got a lot of parts back from plating for several different cars. But let's see, let's look over here. Here's our, all our throttle linkages. And, there's the AC shutoff switch and the return spring I mentioned in the previous video. Here's the, stop switch that attaches to our main throttle linkage. There's the little throttle linkage pivot ball arms. Here's the 4 screws for the base plate and the cruise control plate. There's our cruise control Bowden cable lever. Here's the injector lines. Looks beautiful. These are actually the battery hold down brackets. Had those plated too. Here's the base plate for the cruise control. Now I've already taken the old parts off the cruise control. See, I got our new base plate on here with our new cap, and that mounts onto this guy. Here's the 3 screws that actually hold the cruise control to this mounting plate here. Here's the vacuum line. I also plated the Allen bolt that I took off there. And here's the high pressure line and the low pressure line, and I zinc plated the little hose clamps, radiator and fan shroud brackets, and the oil cooler bracket. All right, there we go, guys. So now it's time to start getting this back on the car. But first thing we want to do is pop off this valve cover and do a valve adjustment. All right, guys, it's the next day, and we're going to go ahead and remove this valve cover and do a valve adjustment. And these are just 13 millimeter nuts. There's 4 of them. All right, let's go ahead and get this valve cover off of here. Sometimes they're a little tricky. Get the little return hoses out of the way. There we go. Okay. We'll go ahead and wash this up in the wash tank. Okay, so on my channel, you've seen me do many valve adjustments. So I'm not going to do a deep dive to show you how to do the valve adjustment. This video is just to show that the valve adjustment is actually being done on this vehicle. But generally what you want to do, so you can see that little dot on our cam tower? See, there's one here and one here. So that little dot, that's a good marker to line up your cam lobe with. And we can see, if we look in here, all these cam lobes are beautiful condition. See how nice and smooth the metal is. There's no scratching, no scoring. If we look at our timing chain here, it is beautiful condition. Very tight. Yeah, that looks nice. You can see our tensioner right down there. Yeah, see how tight the tensioner is? That's oil filled. Yeah, so it looks very nice in here. It's obvious the engine, the oil was changed on a regular basis. But back to these dots, what we want to do, we want to line the cam lobe up with the dot. So you can see this cam lobe right here is lined up with the dot. So we're going to start with this adjustment. And what we're checking for is the clearance between the rocker arm and the base of the cam lobe. Now Mercedes tells us that, what it should be. And you always want to do, they call it valve lash. And they have a hot setting and a cold setting. And you always want to do your valve adjustment on a cold engine. So it says valve lash at water temp below 30 degrees. The intake is 0.10 millimeters. The exhaust is 0.35 millimeters. There it is. You can see it right there. They also give you a hot setting, which looks like intake 0.5, exhaust 0.40. But anyway, we want to get our feeler gauges out for 0.10 and 0.35. And then we also want to identify if this is an intake or exhaust. And anyway, once we set that, and I'll show you guys setting one of them, we want to rotate the engine and get the next cam lobe up into position. And I can already tell you, it looks like it's going to be this one right here. And that needs to come up to the dot. See, it's almost there. So we'll rotate and do number 8 next. So right now we're doing number 2. And here's a little diagram I bought from Kent at Mercedes Source, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. You can print these out online. There's several resources, but here's the front of the engine, and you see it has the exhaust intake, intake, exhaust. It goes all the way down and tells you what each valve is. So we're on number 2, and we know that's an intake. 1, 2. And the intake is going to be 0.10 millimeters. It tells us right there. So we need to put our feeler gauge in there and see where we're at. Okay, since we're dealing with the intake, you guys probably can't see that, but down there in the bottom it says 0.10 millimeters. So basically we take this feeler gauge, and if it slips in there, okay, so it does go in, but it's a little loose. Let me try to stick, well, I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment here and actually tighten it up a little bit, because it feels like it's more than 0.10. And you know, there was probably a valve adjustment done on it previously, and it's okay to err on the side of being too loose, more than it is to be too tight. Over time, they will tighten up. And you need to do this, you know, every 15, 20,000 miles. Some people are going to tell you sooner than that, but 15 to 20,000 miles is about what I do them at, and I find that's the most efficient. You have to adjust a couple. So let me go ahead and tighten this up a little bit. All right, here's my valve adjustment wrenches, and we're going to stick it on here. And there's 2 nuts, a bottom nut and a top nut, and they lock together. So you want to undo those. So I'm going to go counterclockwise with the top nut, and then I want to take that bottom nut and screw it down clockwise so it goes down the valve stem. We're going to go down. And then we're going to, actually, I'm sorry, I want to actually tighten this up a little bit. So we want to go up the valve stem. There we go. We'll go up. Let me grab the top nut again. There we go. And we'll go up a little more. Okay. So basically I made the top nut go up by doing it counterclockwise, and then the bottom nut come up to meet it by going counterclockwise. Now I want to check what our valve lash is. So we want a little bit of drag, right? And now when I push it in, see how it starts to bend it. But there we go. See? A little bit of drag. You can almost hear it. That is right where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead, move the bottom nut up to meet the top nut and lock it in place. Here, look at the one next to it. See the bottom nut and the top nut? Top one's silver, bottom one's black. So we're going to go ahead and lock it in place now. All right, so I'll move the bottom nut up, lock it in place. There we go. We'll just double check our setting. Beautiful. All right, now I need to rotate the crank. I'll show you how to do that so we can move to the next one, and then I'll just come back when I'm finished. Okay, so to rotate the crank, I use this is a 1 1/16 socket. There we go, 1 1/16. We just put it down on the crank bolt. Okay, you see this cam lobe back here? It's almost up to our dot, or basically the 1 o'clock position. So the base of the cam lobe is on the rocker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's number 8. And if I look at my diagram, that's an exhaust. So I'm going to go under the car and rotate it, and you guys watch that. Okay, there we go. We're right on the dot. Let me get our feeler gauge. Oh wow, that one's actually already good. We don't need to make an adjustment there. I don't know if you guys can see, but it just slips in with a little bit of drag. So we're actually going to leave that one alone. And so what I think here, guys, is a valve adjustment was probably recently done on this. So I'm just going back and checking the other mechanics' work. I tightened that one up a little bit. That one felt good. I'm going to go ahead and go through the rest of these. I have 8 more to do, and I'll come back with the results. Okay, so I've gone through the valve adjustment, and I ended here on number 4, which is an exhaust. And what I found is everything was just a little loose. So it seems like the previous mechanic, we're talking about like, you know, a few thousandths of an inch. We're not talking about crazy loose. So I think the previous mechanic, he may have done, let's see, the valve lash, when the engine is hot, it says the gaps should be a little bigger. So he may have used the hot adjustment specs on a cold engine, which it won't hurt anything. It just, the engine won't run as efficiently because the valves, the intake and exhaust valves, are not fully opening to their maximum level. So I've tightened everything up a little bit. It was like 3 or 4 intakes. The exhausts were pretty good. But anyway, so we're done with that. Next thing we want to do is go over here. We're going to clean up our valve cover in the parts washer and put on a new valve cover gasket. All right, let's get this thing dried off. All right, here we have a L-ring valve cover gasket, and you can use L-ring or Victor Rhines. Either one of them are good, and they cost about the same amount. All right, there we go. Let's get her back on the car. And guys, sometimes these are a little tricky to get back on here. You just gotta play around with it, but you usually come down from the front like that. And we move our gaskets out of the way. Okay, there we go. Now once it's on there, you want to check around to make sure your gasket didn't like fold under or come off, especially around the back side. And yeah, we're looking good. Yep, looking good. All right, let me torque these 13 millimeter nuts back down, and then we're going to start reassembly of all the zinc plated parts. All right, next thing we want to do, before we put our injector lines back on, I want to go ahead and replace these cloth braided hoses with original Mercedes braided ones. And basically, you just get a pair of needle nose, and you can pull these off. Sometimes they break, and you have to cut them off with a razor. All right, there we go. That one came off. Gotta just kind of twist. Almost. There we go. So once it's off, see this one didn't break. We can actually cut the new one to length. I'll just show you how to do one of them, and then I'll get all these replaced. So I have, here's the genuine Mercedes stuff. It's like a grayish color with an orange stripe down there. And you can buy it by the meter at your Mercedes dealer. Here's a extra piece I had, but basically you just want to get them lined up. And we're going to get a sharp razor blade and cut our new piece. And actually I'm going to use this short piece that I'm cutting off here as our end cap, which I'll show you guys that later. All right, there we go. So now before I put this back on, it really helps to just squirt a little oil. This is just motor oil. We'll squirt a little motor oil down there, and that lets it slip on easier. So let's go ahead and put this back on here. All right, so we're just gonna stick it over the little nipple there and push it all the way down. There we go. And I'll put a little motor oil on this one here. There we go. And we'll push it down over here. And the reason I'm doing this now is it's really easy to do this when your injector lines are off. You can totally do it when the injector lines are on, but when they're off, it's like a super easy job. So let me go ahead and knock out the rest of these. Now this is a little longer, and you have, remember the plastic clip on the back that goes into the cruise control base plate? We want to save that plastic clip and put it on our new one. Anyway, let me go ahead and replace these. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, we have all those replaced, and this one goes underneath because the throttle linkage is here, and it clips into a little bracket right there. Now the last one right here on the fifth injector. That is just a plug. It's like a deadhead. And I've already pulled it off. You can see it's a short piece of hose, and it has a little metal barb in there because, you know, it doesn't float anywhere. So it's just a deadhead fitting. So let's move this barb into our fresh hose. And all we do, we're just going to slice it out of there with a razor blade. There we go. There it is. There we go. That's what that little guy looks like. Now we just want to stick it down into this one. Should probably put a little oil on there to make it easier. Stick it on here. And then I just usually press it down against the table. And there you go. That's how you do that. Now let's go put that on our last injector. All right, guys, there we go. That job is done. Now I'm going to go ahead, let's start putting back on the zinc plated parts. And I'm going to move through this fast because it's the same as when I took them off. I'm just going to put them all back on. All right, I'm starting with our radiator clips up here. And guys, these are just they just press on here. There we go. And we have our fan shroud brackets. And we'll pull our fan shroud up to where we want it. There we go. Let's just clip around the back like that. Easy enough. Now we need our oil cooler bracket here. I'll go ahead and reattach that right here. Slides on. There we go. And we just need our 10 millimeter to screw that in there. All right, there we have that on there. I guess I'm just going to work in reverse order. I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going to go ahead and reattach some parts. All right, just a little update. We have our main vacuum supply hard line reconnected and our cruise control base plate. But I wanted to show you that clip. We also have the original factory clip in the back of it for our diesel return hose. All right, so off camera, I went ahead and knocked out some more items. Got the cruise control mounted with the new like mounting bracket and base plate. Went ahead and started putting on the throttle linkage base plates on the top up here. Need to screw down those 13 millimeters. Went ahead and got the new injector lines installed. I'm just gonna keep at it. You guys saw me disassemble, so you know how it goes back together. And I will be back in a second. Okay, so I'm starting to put some of the throttle linkage, back together, and I like to use transmission fluid to lubricate things before I slip them together, and that just works a little better than grease because grease is very sticky and attracts dirt, whereas transmission fluid really doesn't. There we go. And then back here on the firewall, I'll put a little in here. There we go. And it's okay if you squirt transmission grease everywhere, guys. That doesn't hurt anything. And let's see, here's our clip. It goes up here. And then I need to tighten this bracket down before I start remounting the throttle linkage up here. Now, guys, keep in mind, this is aluminum. Your valve cover. So you don't want to crank these down or you'll strip your valve cover. You just snug them up. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and start getting some of the linkages installed up here. Okay, I've started routing the cruise control cable or electrical connection. You see I got my original zip tie there. We've gone back down underneath here, and we need to put it in this zip tie here, and then I've got it already attached in the zip tie there. And this guy's actually going to plug back into here. All right, let me get this last zip tie right here. All right, I've got our cotter pin back through the throttle linkage that mounts to the firewall right there. I have our clip on the end of the bracket right here. I have our E-clip, so we should, and there's the injection pump. It is now connected, and this should now move freely. See, there's our throttle actuator. Here we go. That's all working exactly how it should. Now let's go ahead and start on the top end. Okay guys, here is our AC shutoff switch. I've never seen one of these fail. All it is a switch, on, off, on, off. So we reuse these. Like I said, never seen one fail. And it just screws in right here. This is a little 7mm. Plugs into a hole right there. All right, good. Now we need to get our throttle pivot points go up there. And remember, the return spring has to go on one of them. Okay, so here's how the return spring attaches back. So this is what this looks like. Orient it that way. See that little groove right there? That's for the long arm of the return spring. So we put that there, and then it goes right around there. And this attaches around the back of the base plate right there. And this is kind of tricky to get on here. All right, let's see if I can grab this little guy. Here we go. Grab it around. There we go. Attach it right under there, and then push that down. And there we go. That's how that works. See, if I push it full throttle and then I'll let go, how it goes back. All right, let's go ahead and we need to get the other piece that goes over here. Okay, here's the other piece. Let me zoom out. Okay, there we go. Now, what's important, you have this little plastic, it's like a plastic or nylon bushing. I've never seen one of these things wear out, guys. I took this off before it went back to zinc plating, but that goes right there. And there's a little E-clip that holds it on there, and then that can spin. Now, Mercedes specifically says in the service manual, do not lubricate this little nylon bushing here. So we're not going to lubricate that. There you go, our ball pivot. There we go. When I reassembled that, I put that on upside down. I need to flip it over. So let me do that real quick. Okay, there we go. I've got that pointed right side up now. There we go. See how that little nylon bushing pivots in that channel? See if I can get a view where you can see it. See how it goes in that channel? Perfect. Now we need to put our E-clips back around here. All right, I'm zoomed in really well, but so when the throttle pulls, watch how this engages our AC switch and our little bushing, nylon bushing, travels along that channel. See that? Perfect. All right, I'm gonna stay zoomed in, and this right here is the Bowden cable lever. There we go. Now notice the lever has this little flat edge right here. That flat edge has to be on this side of this little tab right here, or it will not pull the Bowden cable. Let me demonstrate. All right, I have that lubricated. There we go. All right, so there we go. So see how this is on this side of the tab? And that's so it will pull that lever, and the Bowden cable, when we round it back through here. All right, there we go. So the way that works, when it's on this side of the tab, it pulls with your throttle and then it releases. There we go. See how that works? Otherwise, if you put it on the other side of the tab, when you pull your throttle, it won't pull the Bowden cable. Okay, what we're going to do now is put our cruise control linkage back on here. There we go. Perfect. Let me put the E-clip. I need the E-clip on my Bowden cable lever and the cruise control lever. All right. There we go. Now we need to start getting our linkages attached. So this guy is going to go right here. Now I want to lubricate these a little bit before we put them on there. There we go. The channel locks help to put the little ball sockets back on. There we go. There's another one that goes right over here, and we need to lubricate it. All right, then we have another one that goes underneath here and attaches way back there in the back. All right, we're down to the last two linkages. These are for the cruise control. See, that one's going to go there. And this one is going to go right here. There we go. All right, and then we got one more that goes across the top. All right, we have the linkage reattached. Let's see how that works. Now we should see the cruise control move right here with all the throttle linkage and the Bowden cable and our switch. Look at that, guys. Beautiful. All right, let me wipe off some of the excess transmission fluid and let's continue on. All right, it's starting to look pretty nice in here. What we want to do now is go ahead and reattach our power steering lines. Okay, we're making good progress. Got the power steering lines back in there, reapplied the factory white X's. Got all the throttle linkage installed, working beautifully. Injector lines. We need to get our power steering fluid back in. Also need to change the battery hold down brackets for the there we go. Need to put those in there. Need to refinish the air cleaner housing lid and just do some general cleanup in here. And we're on the home stretch. All right, another thing I want to do is reapply the Cosmoline. That is the cavity wax. And let me turn off the light here so you can see this. There we go. It's a rust preventative cavity wax. This is what Mercedes used, and this is transparent. And it dries the same way and looks exactly the same as what Mercedes originally used. Now, they applied it down here on the edge of the battery tray, back here in the hood hinge pockets on both sides, and then they would spray right down under here where the fender connects to the body. And I'm going to apply it in exactly the same places. All right, so we're going to get up here and spray it right where Mercedes would spray it. They would coat it really good back in here and then behind the pocket back there. And it's like, and then they would spray right down in this area. And then they'd also spray right down in here. And I'll show you what that stuff looks like. It dries, it's like a golden color. There you go. You see it's like, see that? And it drips down, it's like a golden color. And it's cavity wax. And that's exactly how, let me wipe this off right here. Mercedes would do it, and that protects that. And it's always a good idea to just reapply this because the original stuff will wear off after so many years. And there we go. So I got that all recoated back in there. That's exactly how they would do it from the factory. So I also need to do it over on that side. And you can see I've shot it right back up in here too. That's where they would put it. All right. So let me knock out that side, and then let's get these battery brackets. Got some transmission fluid on that one. Get these installed back down on there. Beautiful. Very nice. All right, let's get our battery brackets down. Installed in here. There we go. You can see these the zinc plating is, really started to wear off. It's still barely on there, some on the bottom, but it was a much brighter from the factory. There's after our fresh zinc plating. So we'll go ahead and get this one reinstalled. And there's two of them down there. And I'll put a little cavity wax over there. That's where they would spray it. And we'll get our other fresh one down in here. All right, there we go. Got our new brackets down there and got our fresh Cosmoline applied down there. over here. And we applied it also, reapplied it back down in here. And not sure if you guys can see in there, it's still wet, it's still drying right now. There's all that fresh Cosmoline wax down in there. Okay, so we've cleaned this up in the parts washer. This is our air filter housing, and we got a nice coat of Rust-Oleum satin on it, and that is drying. And there's our new air filter we're gonna put in here. Now, if you remember, the lid to the air cleaner housing had some surface rust on it. See, like right here and here. So I wanna sand this down and then hit it with some satin black and refinish it, make it look really nice again. So let's go ahead and do that. And I have these nice little sanding disc, sanding pads that make this job really easy. And you can just go over each one. And so you can easily get it back down to the metal. And we just got to go through each of these little spots. There you go. See what we're doing? We're just kind of sanding those little rust spots off, and then we'll smooth it out and refinish it. So let me go ahead. I got several to knock out, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, got most of it sanded down and finished it off with a 240 grit to smooth it out. A couple more spots over here. Let's go ahead, hit this with a little paint, and it's going to look much, much nicer. All right, that's one very light coat. We can still see a spot showing through. That's a light coat. We'll let that dry, and then we'll hit it again. In the meantime, this looks really nice. It's pretty much dry enough, I think, to go ahead and install back in the car. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, inch that down in here. Now there's a little rubber grommet down at the bottom you want it to sit in. There we go. Stick this guy in here. All right, looking good. All right, let me go ahead and tighten some of these fittings back down. Now, this tube that runs across here, originally from the factory, it had a little insulation on it. Now, you can still see across the AC manifold, the original insulation is still there, so I definitely don't want to pull that off. That's very, very rare to still have that on the car, so I want to leave that for originality. But for this piece, the original insulation was really bad shape, so I'm going to cut a piece and apply it. And what you can use for that, it's very similar to what Mercedes used, is 2.5 inch pipe insulation. And so we want it, let's see, there we go. I want to cut it somewhere right about there. All right, let's see. Perfect. There we go. Very nice. Now let's go check our lid. Okay, our lid is still wet, but I think I can get it back on here. So we'll let that dry on the car. Get this tightened back down here. All right, last thing we want to do, we want to put some ATF. What you want to use for your power steering fluid is Dex Merc, automatic transmission fluid. And what you look for, same that goes in the transmission. It says right there, Dexron 3. That's the stuff. Now we're going to have to purge the air out of the system, but we'll go ahead and get it topped off here. Here are the bubbles. Basically, we go in the car, we turn the steering wheel lock to lock, back and forth several times, and that'll cause the steering box to turn and purge bubbles out of this and let the fluid flow back down in there. We gotta lift the car up a little bit. See the bubbles coming out? All right, and there we go. Now the cap on the 85 model was not zinc plated. It's just looks like unfinished steel, maybe unfinished aluminum. Probably aluminum or galvanized steel, I don't know. The oil caps on the 85 were also not zinc plated, they were plastic. All right, there we go. Okay, and we are officially done restoring the engine compartment. All the zinc plating is back in place. Refinished the air filter housing. Did the Cosmoline spray. Got our new hold down brackets back there. We already have the new hood pad, and it looks absolutely beautiful. That's how they looked when they were new from the factory, guys. And of course we have our new throttle linkage, all lubricated, freshly installed, just beautiful condition, all the return hoses. So now what we want to do, there's a couple of things, because I want to fire this up and, you know, make sure everything's running good since we replaced all the lines. And before I do that, we want to go down here and change this original primer pump. See, these are prone to leak because they have a little O-ring seal under this cap, and this little cap unscrews and you can pump it and to prime your filter. So we want to put a new filter, a new primer pump, and I want to change this main fuel filter right here. And then we're going to bleed the air out of the system and see if we can get her fired up. So getting these main fuel filters off is easy. You just use a 24mm socket up here. And we're just going to screw this guy off of here. All right, come on. Okay, there we go. Okay, we didn't spill any. It's a miracle. There we go. There's our fuel filter. Now, we want to replace it, and we want to make sure we fill the other one, the new one, with fresh diesel. That way there won't be any air bubbles in the system. And here we go. We're going to throw on a new MAN filter. That's the OEM manufacturer for Mercedes. That's what they used. There we go. So let's go ahead and fill this up with some diesel first. And you just want to fill it all the way to the top. Otherwise, you're going to have air bubbles and you'll never get it started. That is all the way to the top. All right, guys, like I said, it's okay if you spill some diesel. It's not going to hurt anything. We're going to come right underneath here, right underneath our fuel filter housing. There we go, bottomed out. Now I'm just going to wipe it off a little bit. Okay, all right, let's get this primer pump out of here. All right, guys, the easiest way to get the old primer pump out is get some vice grips, clamp it around the side. I've already cracked it loose, but see, now it's loose, and after you get it loose, you can screw it out by hand, which I'll show you here. Let's get those vice grips out of there. Then you can just spin it out by hand. And I'll show you the new primer pump we're going to put in is a different design. Bosch redesigned it, and Bosch also makes that's your lift pump right there. You can see it says Bosch. Now we also need to get that crush washer out right there. So let me get a pick. Also, I'll show you why these leak. See this cap? See that little O-ring gasket underneath there? That O-ring will get little cracks in it. This one does not. Oh, it's got one appearing right there. But when they start to crack, they start to leak. Because the way you use these. Here you go. The way you use these, you unscrew them, and then you can use it as a pump like that. And then when you're done, you screw it back down. But that O-ring leaks. Let me show you the new design. Okay, remember that little O-ring? I mean that little crush washer? First I want to get that out. I'm just going to go down here with a little pick. There we go. I got that little crush washer out of there. It's important to replace that. Let me show you the new primer pump. All right, here's the new primer pump. Let's see if we can get a part number here for you. There you go. There's some part numbers. I think it's the 2447 one. But let me show you what this looks like. So this one you don't have to unscrew. Let's take our protective cap off and see they include a new crush washer right there. But the way this one works, it's just a hand pump. It just works like that. You don't have to unscrew anything. So let's go ahead and get it in there. Then we need to put a crow's foot on there, a 17 millimeter or 11/16 to tighten it down. So the trick is you want to hold that crush washer while you screw it in by hand. There we go. Got that screwed in by hand. There we go. Move that light. That's it right there. Now we need to tighten it down. All right, to tighten it down, we just reach down there with a crow's foot right there along the edge, and we can snug it up. Sorry, I can't record that because it's way down there. But there we go. Got it on there. And there we go. That is installed. All right, now let me replace the pre-fuel filter. Now, these are what you always want to keep in the glove box, guys. See, this one looks a little dirty. It's a little black, but this is a little pre-fuel filter, and you get it off with a, there's a hose clamp right over here and one right there. You just get it off with a short, stubby screwdriver. And let me show you the replacement. You want to keep these in your glove box because when these clog up, you'll just lose power. You'll think something's wrong with your engine. And no, these are just little fuel filters, so you can see through them. This is Hankst. I like to use Hankst. But you can see through them. When they get dirty and it clogs up, you'll lose power. You'll be going down the interstate, and all of a sudden you can only go like 40 miles an hour. Just pull over to a gas station, grab your little stubby screwdriver and your filter out of your glove box. You change it at the gas station. Then you hit your primer pump a few times to fill it back up, and then you get back on the road. Let me show you how to change it. There you go. There's your glove box kit. Little short Phillips and your pre-fuel filter. Always keep an extra one. Yep, there it is. So see, there's a little hose clamp. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, but hose clamp right there. And the other one is right there. There we go. See, there we go. We're loosening that one. Okay. Let's see if I can record me doing this one. I'm gonna come right down here. Yeah, not gonna be able to record that. There we go. Now I'm loosening that one. All right, good. All right, I think those are loose. Now we can pull that thing off of there. Now, when you pull it off, guys, you're going to spill diesel. But like I said, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Diesel doesn't hurt anything. So I'm going to pull this side off. And I just like to put my finger over one side of it so it won't let diesel flow out the other side. Oh, there we go. All right. There we go. This one, not too dirty, but it started to get a little black. So we're going to go ahead and change that one. All right, here's our other one. We'll just go down here and pop it in there. Retighten our hose clamps. And you do that at the gas station. I also like to keep some gloves in my glove box to do this. So let me tighten that back up and then we'll prime it. Okay, let me see if I can record priming this. There we go. All right, you see our new filter right there. There's no fuel in it, but our new primer pump is on here. And watch that filter. There you go. See it filling up? There we go. And we want to pump this like 20 or 30 times. Just make sure we get fuel all the way into the system. All right. There we go. That should be good. New pre-fuel filter. All right, guys. It's about time to fire this up. Now, we need to go through a procedure for this because These injector lines are empty and they have air in them because I just installed them. So the easiest way to bleed the system, if you go down here to your fuel filter housing, see you have an in arrow there and an out arrow there. You want to crack this loose. You don't need to remove it. That's a banjo bolt. Crack this loose at 17 millimeter, and then we're going to start cranking the car. And we're going to crank until we see diesel squirting out of here. Once we see that, we're going to tighten it back down, and she should be ready to fire up. All right, this is just a 17 millimeter. And let's see, lefty loosey, so that would be that way. There we go. Crack that loose, we'll unscrew it just a little bit. Okay, that's enough. There we go. See, we just broke the seal right there. Unscrewed it a little bit. See, that one's not undone. That one is. Now, we need to go crank the car until fuel comes out of there. All right, so the way we know when fuel comes out is I just crank it for like 10 or 15 seconds and then go up there and check, and it'll be wet everywhere. All right, here we go. So we got to crank it, and it's not going to start. It's just going to get the air out. You see the fuel pressure, the oil pressure will probably start building. There we go. All right, let's go check and see if we have fuel coming out of there. Oh yes, see it dripping? So it came out and dripped down the line here, and it's all over there, see? We'll wipe that up and blow it out with some compressed air. All right, good. That air is now purged from the system. Now let me tighten this back up. All right, we tightened our banjo bolt back down. Now that means it's all full of fuel, and all we got to do is shoot the fuel right through the injector lines. It'll take a couple of tries, but it should fire up in a second. Let's go give it a shot. Okay, guys, here we go. Let's see how quick we can do this. It's going to take a couple of attempts, I'm thinking. Glow plugs are on. All right, they're off. Oh, there she goes. Wow, that was a lot quicker than I was expecting. All right. All right, there we go, guys. I'll probably play around with the idle adjustment a little bit more. Get that exactly where I want it. But there we go, guys. Mission accomplished. Let's go shut this thing back off. Mission accomplished. Guys, this video, I'm not sure how long the video is going to be, but you've just seen basically 3 days of work, all condensed in this short YouTube video. But very happy with how this turned out. It's absolutely beautiful. And man, I just really like this car. We got it fired up, got the filters changed, all the zinc plating done. So we got another video coming. That's going to be, let's see, I think I'll shoot that this weekend. Kevin is coming into town. He's one of the guys that works with me. He is one of the best Mercedes mechanics in the country, 123 Wagon specialist. So I called in the guns to help me out so we can finish this car off. And I think this weekend we're going to take the dash out and change the climate control vacuum pods behind the dash, repair the antenna, do some other odds and ends. And I don't know how much of that I'll be able to record because Kevin will be here. But that's what I'm doing. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. Let's take one more look at this beautiful engine compartment. There we go, guys. That is how they look from the factory. By the way, check out the air filter housing lid. That came out really nice after sanding it down and respraying it. Looks so good in there. Thanks for watching.